Hi everyone, let's try again. I've moved myself over and hopefully I'm as close to the router as I can be, and hopefully this will make the difference. So let's just wait for people to come into the live stream. Please share the link to this live stream. The last live stream lasted for about 15 minutes, but I see only about 7 minutes of it was recorded. So please share the link to this live stream as fast as possible. If you can just share that link. I can't leave you now to go and share the link. I'm going to start from scratch. So I really want to thank you all for joining. We have just over 90 people on now. We had over 500 people in the live stream earlier, and unfortunately, something happened with the internet. So yes, 200 in the next 30 seconds, we'll see. So please this is an open video, so please invite your friends and family to this. It's very important what I'll be discussing. I'll start from scratch, and I will later remove the other bit of the recording because there was only 7 minutes actually recorded when I was actually carrying on for 15 minutes. So I'm really sorry about that. We have about 136 people in the stream now while I'm very close to the router, so hopefully this will be good. Yeah, that is strange internet issues. I don't understand exactly what happened there, but hopefully we'll be lucky this time around. So thanks all for joining, but please share the link so that more people can come on. A lot of people were waiting for the live stream. I put out the link on yesterday already. I put it out on Facebook. I put it out on Telegram. And yes, unfortunately, you're going to have to help me with that to put out the link so that people can at least get it. Okay. So thank you very much for joining me. We're discussing a very important topic today, and that is the Eskom situation, the electricity grid situation in South Africa. And it's something that should be of a huge concern to everyone that want to be free, because without an electricity grid, we will have anarchy in the country. And I'll explain to you later why that happens, how it will happen, how quickly it'll happen if we should have a grid collapse, which I really hope will never happen. And I will explain to you how that can be prevented and how we are currently preventing that using load shedding and various other things, and how we actually have certain things in place to prevent the grid from collapsing. And I will explain to you in the most simplest detail exactly how that works. And then later I will take questions. Yes, I'm starting from scratch, Jacques. I have to start from scratch. I'm sorry if the load shedding started then. We should have gone through most of the important things by that time. So I really want you to think about the person. Hi, Sandy. Thanks for joining as a member. Yes, it's something I mentioned earlier. Some of the people signed up as members earlier before the live stream started. I really want to welcome you. If you want to become a channel member and get the detail on some of the issues we have with regards to the power grid and the things that Tesla did by bringing AC power into our homes, etc., go and join the WDS channel membership, community membership. And then you can go and watch all the past live streams that I've done with the community members. And Thursday night, 8 o'clock is when I do those live streams. So you can look forward to another one on Thursday evening. Welcome, Sandy. And then you will see that our electricity supply around the world had been laid out in a way that affects us in our homes. And that's not the topic of discussion for tonight. What we're going to discuss tonight is the situation in South Africa. And you will see my thumbnail has Cyril Ramaphosa, President Cyril Ramaphosa in that picture at a Eskom briefing. And the one thing you need to know is that he's running the show. Okay. At the moment, besides his own puppet masters, he's running the show in Eskom, and the current CEO is just there as a proxy. And who is benefiting the most from the new policies that are being put out there? That is Cyril Ramaphosa's extended family. More than a half of the renewable energy contracts are being given to Patrice Motsepe. And you need to understand why that is happening and why that is being spearheaded and why it is such a huge problem. And I will describe that to you in quite a lot of detail. And I will explain to you why it's a huge problem to think that we can just split an electricity grid into small little bits and pieces, and how it's impossible to just divorce the Western Cape or Cape Town from an electricity grid. So the entire network around this country, the Southern African region, and the world relies on grids of electricity supply, where power generating units connect and synchronize to each other, something I've done many times before. I have synchronized the largest units in the Southern Hemisphere onto the grid many times, as well as taken reactors critical, tripped reactors, etc. So I'm a real energy expert. You know, there's many other people out there, Anton Eberhard and Chris Yelland, that people see as energy experts when they've never really worked hands-on in the industry, or actually synchronized generators, or actually spoken to national control, regional control, worked in a high voltage control room, or anything like that. I have. And that gives me a different perspective as to the situation we find ourselves in. I can say emphatically that we cannot separate the Western Cape from Eskom. It's not possible. We can't separate Cape Town from the Western Cape. It's not Cape Town from the rest of the Eskom grid. It's not possible. These are fairy tale pie in the sky dreams. And anyone that says anything like that, firstly, don't understand electricity grids, and they know nothing about electricity distribution. And these people put out false narratives, very bad false narratives, that might make you believe that they are doing something good for you, when it's all about money and control. And this is the important thing to understand. If you want to be able to control the people of a country, then you need to take control of the energy supply. Eskom was such a huge success. It was the best power supply company in the world, on the planet, by far. And this was a huge problem and a threat to the world elites. And they had to buckle Eskom. And I will explain to you how since 1999, Eskom has been subjected to puppet master pressure to literally become what it is right now, literally fighting for survival. And where a CEO of the company is bad mouthing it. I mean, I've never heard anything like that in my life. But currently, this is exactly what is happening. We have a CEO of a company such as Eskom bad mouthing the company and actually trying to empower other companies like the one that Patrice Motsepe runs to supply power to the country with very, very unstable electricity renewable supply. And I'll get into the details of that later. So if you actually think about it, when you connect all these wires in a grid, okay? Oh, this is not a Masonic sign. I mentioned that earlier. This is a grid, network of wires going into each other. This is not a Masonic ring. It's my wedding ring. I'm not a Mason, okay? I never have been, and I don't need to be. I know all about the Masonic rituals because I've studied them in detail. There's nothing secret about that society because I know everything about them. I know everything they know and more. So Masons can learn from me if they're interested, and so can you if you are interested. But you don't have to listen if you don't want to. So a grid, lines feeding into each other help to keep the grid stable. When you have a whole lot of generators synchronized together at 50 hertz, where in the US it's 60 hertz, in South Africa it's 50 hertz, to supply alternating current to your home and in large industry out there. If that frequency is not kept stable by those generators and the frequency starts to drop, if it drops to 47.5 hertz, all the generators on the grid will separate from the grid and we will have an instant blackout countrywide. What does this mean? It means that instantly, when your power goes out and you think it's load shedding, actually that happened to the entire country at once, except for one difference. You can't just switch the lights on again. It's not possible to do that because there's nothing at that moment to start up all these massive units all over the country, because they actually need power to get started. And batteries aren't good enough. It's not like your car. We have a battery and you have a starter motor and you can start your engine and then it produces power for the car. It doesn't work like that. You can't have a massive battery and start up to Tuka or Matla or Matimba or any of these places. They have massive pumps, they have massive mills, massive fans that needs to be started up, that uses lots of megawatts to get that plant started. So how can we start up from a black grid situation? There's 2 power stations on the Eskom grid that have been designed for black start capability, and there's others that have also been earmarked for that. And both Koeberg Unit 1 and 2 are designed for black start capability. So if we have a total grid collapse, both Koeberg units can separate from the grid and house load. It's called house loading, and what happens is they supply their own power. So the reactors don't trip, the turbines don't trip, it continues running, and all the generator does is it supplies the load for the plant. And then you can start to use Koeberg to rebuild the South African power grid. And this is why Koeberg is so important to South Africa, not just to the Western Cape to stabilize the grid here, but to South Africa because it has black start capabilities. And you don't need a diesel generator or anything to do it. It can do it by itself. It was designed that way. The other station that can do this is Drakensberg. So in KwaZulu-Natal, you have the Drakensberg station. And this is why they often say that we need to do load reduction, not load shedding, load reduction. In other words, reduce loads in areas to build the dam levels at Drakensberg back up to above black start capability. So if Drakensberg is run to the point where it goes below the level where you can use Drakensberg to black start the grid, in other words, supply other power stations with what is necessary to get the grid back up and running, we are screwed. So when Eskom says we need to load the reduce to get Drakensberg back, the water levels in the top dams back up to above black start capability, don't moan and bitch. Be extremely happy that they are considering this. Okay, that is not an option. Drakensberg should always have its top dams water level above black start capability, which means there's enough water left in that top dam to the bottom dam, because it's a pump storage scheme just like Palmit, that if it drops below that level, we won't have enough water to run those turbines and start up other power stations, coal-fired power stations. If you have enough dam level, then you can use that water and the level can come down. You can generate electricity and supply electricity to other coal-fired power stations to get going, which can then be used to start the rest of the grid. How long would it take to start up a blacked out grid? Well, firstly, a grid becomes unstable when the size of the grid decreases, like has happened recently, where you hear that there's under 30,000 megawatts worth of generating capacity on the grid. It makes the grid very unstable, because if you lose one big unit somewhere, there's a massive drop in grid frequency. And like I said earlier, if the frequency drops from 50 hertz to 47.5 hertz, all the generators will separate from the grid and we'll have a grid blackout. This is not something that we can tolerate or handle in the country. And I'll explain to you just now why we cannot have a grid blackout in South Africa, why we cannot tolerate that, and why you should not be shouting and screaming at Eskom. You should be begging and pleading for them to sort things out. And I will explain to you how that man on the thumbnail, Cyril Ramaphosa, is doing everything to destroy Eskom. And I will get into the detail of that later. And anyone that is trying to destroy the grid or destroy or shut down Koeberg is doing the same thing. These people are playing into a narrative to destabilize the country. And I've told you, there's 3 things that can be used to destabilize South Africa. The first thing is the Zulu Kingdom. The second thing is Eskom, what we're discussing now. And the last thing is secession, splitting the country into little pieces and fighting for each one of those pieces. So those 3 things can destabilize South Africa to the point where we have a total breakdown of civility. And this is certainly not something we can afford. So tonight we're dealing with Eskom. So just to sum up, for those that have joined later, Eskom is in a very precarious situation right now, because so many units that are already old either break down or are on maintenance. And I will explain to you how since 1999, politicians for the first time interfered in what Eskom is recommending we do to deliberately destroy Eskom. This started in 1999. I will lay that in nitty-gritty now so that you can understand how vulnerable we are right now. The moment you go under 30,000 megawatts and you lose one big unit, like one cubic unit, that's 940 megawatts you're taking off the grid. That's a massive percentage. That can be up to 4 or 5% of the grid's power at any given point in time. If you're at 25,000 megawatts and you take a 900 megawatt unit off, that's almost 4% of the country's energy supply. That is a shocking amount. Now you remove 4% frequency from 50 hertz. Do the math and see if we can get to 47.5 hertz. It's not quite that simple, but that is more or less where your mind needs to be at. So we are vulnerable right now. Hi, Ben, welcome as a member. We are very vulnerable. And this is why when cubic unit 1 tripped 2 weeks ago, it had huge effects on the country. That is why we had extra load shedding. There were many other units down, but one cubic unit made a huge difference to the country. But I've explained to you earlier why we need cubic. It has black start capabilities. We can take a completely blacked out grid. If cubic, both units, house load successfully, then we can restart the grid. We can do the same with Drakensberg if the Drakensberg top dam level is above the black start level. And this is important. So I also earlier explained before we were interrupted that there are different levels of load shedding. We have load shedding, which we have to do to maintain the grid at 50 hertz. Then we have load reduction, where you have to reduce load so that you can either stockpile coal at the coal-fired power stations or make sure that a peaking station like Drakensberg can get enough level above the black start level so we know that Drakensberg can help start up the grid if something goes wrong. And the more units you have down, the more important that becomes. Okay, so if Eskom tells you that they are load shedding, they're calling it load shedding, but it's actually load reduction because they need to replenish the levels at Drakensberg. Don't moan and bitch. They actually need to do it. There's a lot of fake news flying around with regards to that. Wow, we almost have 600 people in this live stream. Thanks for joining, and please share this video with your friends and family. I want people to understand what is happening within Eskom and why Cyril Ramaphosa can squarely take the blame because he wants to fund his extended family, Patrice Motsepe, that's getting half of the renewable energy contracts, and why Eskom is absolutely being thrown under the bus right now, and why I need you as a country to get behind Eskom, support the people there, because they are making Eskom the same as Jacob Zuma, the mainstream media. Everyone must attack them when you are dependent on Eskom. Okay, if you have the funds to become self-reliant with energy, do it. But most South Africans do not have those funds and rely on Eskom. And Eskom, that was a world-class utility, not just world-class, but the best. It had the best distribution network in the world, the best designed pylons, cables, the lot. We were number one in the world. What happened? What happened since 1999? And how can we prevent the grid from becoming so unstable that we end up with a blackout situation? Now, first, let me tell you what's at stake if the grid should black out. If our frequency should drop from 50 hertz to 47.5 hertz and all the generators on the grid disconnects, we will have a complete blackout countrywide. And then we should hope that Drakensberg can get that grid started again, or both units at Kuburg successfully house load and they can resupply the grid. Because if that is not the case, we will never start the grid up again. We would literally have to bring in external power or make sure that some of our diesel supply units can actually black start the grid, that they have sufficient power to do that. And I believe Gaurikwa has been designed to do exactly that, which will give us a third starting point or black start capability point, which will really help the country, especially with regards to grid stability. But what happens when we lose all power? Everything goes dark. And if you look at world history, within 48 hours, there's a complete and utter breakdown of civility across the country, not just in isolated places. If we have a blackout countrywide and this information spreads because there's still cell phone towers with batteries, and everyone knows there's a countrywide blackout, it's going to take 2 weeks to a month to start building back some semblance of a grid. Within 2 hours, looting and pillaging will start to take place. This is based on what's happening in the rest of the world already and in South Africa. Within 48 hours, we will have a complete loss of civility. In other words, you're at plan C situation, absolute Mad Max. In other words, you will have people running in the streets going berserk. Now, why does electricity stop that from happening? The presence of electricity, okay? Because it keeps people sane. Most of what we do today, our cell phones, all the internet, everything that we use that keeps us sane depends on electricity supply. If you don't have electricity, you're not going to know how to just go talk to your neighbors and just have a nice braai together or have a nice get together, because people don't do that anymore mainstream. It's abnormal now to see people gathering, and that is why I organize gatherings around the country. People will not know how to interact. So what do? Gangs start running the show because the government is now useless. They mean absolutely nothing. So what do? They now need the military and the police to intervene and start controlling you, the South African so-called citizen. Do you trust the South African police and the South African military to tell you how to do things? What do you think is going to happen to the shops and shop supplies? There will be a run on the shops, not by thieves, by everybody, to get supplies immediately. What will this cause? The first thing that's going to happen is the shops are going to close their doors to stop looting and pillaging. This is pre-planned. We have over 700 people watching now. Thank you so much for coming onto this live stream. If you want to join the channel as a member, you can click join underneath and then become a part of this community. And I really want to thank everyone that's made the effort to come onto this live stream, because this information is important. I want you to share this with your friends and family. So what happens when these shops close their doors because they don't want looting and pillaging to start happening? What are you stuck with at home? How long can you survive for? Can you ride out the storm? Can you wait that 2 weeks to a month for some form of a grid to build up again? Because what has to happen now, if Kuburg successfully house loaded and if Drakensberg has a level above black start, then they can start one by one rebuilding a grid, a very unstable grid. You would have to manage the demand on that grid very meticulously. And you're not going to do that with citizens switching on stoves and ovens and whatnot. No, they are going to select very specific industry to pick up those loads because it can be controlled. You can't control people. They will just switch on whatever they want. So you are going to be last in line when it comes to being switched on. Very specific, predictable loads will be used to load up that grid first. Aluminium smelters, etc. And once that starts to happen, in some areas of the country, you will start getting a semblance of stability. A semblance of stability. Okay. But throughout the rest of the country, remember I said within 2 hours of everyone knowing that all the power is down countrywide, you start getting people looting already within 2 hours. Within 48 hours, a complete breakdown of civility. And in South Africa, our military and police do not have the capability or the intellect to control such a situation. So it will be like Mad Max. You will be on your own and you will need to know what to do if that should happen. Now, someone says, when will this happen? Hopefully, never. And why do I say that? Because we have very qualified people working at national control that should try and control the load shedding so that we do keep the grid stable. Load shedding is not there to punish you, it's an absolute necessity. Anyone that says that we deliberately load shed is talking utter nonsense. Okay, there's no such thing. I will tell you how Eskom has been sabotaged by politicians and their puppet masters for years now, since 1999, so that you can understand why we find ourselves in the situation that we are in. In 1999, a white paper on electricity supply was published to government saying we need to start building new generation capacity within the next 2 years to stop load shedding from happening, to stop the demand from outstripping the supply. Eskom had surplus electricity. And that prediction was so spot on. I'll never forget. I was in Unit 1 control room at Coburg when the shift manager called me to his office, because we started to see our primary pumps in the control room, the speed drop and go up again on night shifts. And we were wondering what on earth is going on. Why is this happening? Why is the grid frequency starting to dip at night? And this was in 2001, 2002. And when I went through to the shift manager's office, he showed me on the national control log that they were busy load shedding smelters. This was back in 2002. The public knew nothing about this. The media told no one. We were load shedding since then. We've been load shedding industry for years. So even if the public is not being load shed, industry is being load shed every single day. You just don't know about it because you're not affected. Most people only care when they are affected. They don't care about the rest of the country or any industries out there. The smelters buy premium electricity from Eskom. They have special supply agreements, and that agreement states that if load shedding is required, that those big loads can be dumped first, and they can be anything from 100 to 200 megawatts at a time. That can supply a town with electricity. So those smelters go first. And when I saw those log entries for national control, I realized we're in trouble. This is the start of trouble. And every time I went back on shift, things started to get worse, because we later started seeing how more and more of these smelters are being load shed, and later other industries are being load shed. How they started running gas turbines like Acacia and Fort Rex to supplement the electricity supply, which is unheard of. This happened back in 2002. The public was no wiser. I tried to warn many people, but people don't listen if they are not affected. So what happened? In 2006, we had the generator bolt incident, so-called bolt incident at Coburg Unit 1, and all of a sudden, one of the Coburg units were down for a 6 months period. One of the largest units on the Eskom grid. One of two of the largest, because both the Coburg units are the largest in the Eskom grid. Over 900 megawatts gone. This caused load shedding. And now the public was affected. The public, you and me, we were now influenced by this. All of a sudden it became a thing. Because the moment the public don't know about it, if you're not being load shed, you don't care that we are in a crisis. So that 1999 paper said we need to start building new capacity in 2 years' time, 2001. 2002, the first problem started and we had to start load shedding. What did Thabo Mbeki do at the time? He said, keep the lights on at all costs. We are building squat. Nothing. And now I'm a mason, because I do this and this is now 666. I'm so flippin' sick of these people, by the way. So just stuff off the channel. I don't want you here. I don't need your nonsense, really. So nothing was done. Thabo Mbeki had a very simple statement to Eskom. You will keep the lights on at all cost. Save money. Don't do maintenance on the units. And lo and behold, what happened? Poor Jacob Zuma took over from him, Eskom that is now way behind, in serious trouble. And what did the country do? Now Thabo Mbeki did nothing wrong. He's a superhero, like Cyril Ramaphosa, a superhero. That's what he is. He was a sellout and a traitor to the country. He brought Eskom to its knees, to where it is today. Because once you go behind, wow, we have a new record of viewers. We have over 850 people watching. Thanks for joining us. Thabo Mbeki was the person that sold us out. That said that we're not going to build more capacity. He was not going to give us the funds to do it. And he is responsible today. All of those years were wasted years. Nothing was done. It doesn't take 1 year to build a power station. It takes years. So Eskom was always behind. So it's the first political interference in Eskom. And it was ANC government interference because Thabo Mbeki's puppet masters told him, no, we are going to bring something else to the country. Don't let them build more coal-fired power stations. We're going to bring you wind turbines and we're going to bring you solar panels. But it's not quite ready yet. So just hang on. That is what happened. So our grid today is screwed because of that plan. Where do you think this idea came from? This renewable energy idea that stunted any building of new power stations. So what happens next? Jacob Zuma comes into power and it's a complete and utter stuff up. They now need to build extra coal. They know it because they cannot produce the wind energy and they cannot produce the solar energy stable enough to run a grid like this because it's been achieved nowhere else in the world. So they build Medupi and Kusile. A complete and utter disaster because now politicians are involved in the contracts, not normal technical people. It's not like a normal tender that goes out. Countries get involved. Governments get involved. Not normal people, not technicians. And money gets pillaged and stolen. Really bad contracts gets rolled out. If you know how many billions was wasted at Medupi and Kusile, you will vomit. But it's the truth. That's what happened. And you cannot just blame Jacob Zuma for it. I can tell you that now. The people you need to blame for that are the puppet masters of Mbeki and the puppet masters of the people that ran those contracts for Medupi and Kusile that started late. They should have started building them years ago. Another bad situation at the time was the fact that people wanted to build more nuclear power stations. There were people advocating for it, not Jacob Zuma, normal technical experts, Eskom themselves. The Koeberg site was licensed for 6 units. We've built 2. We can build another 4 units on that site. Why not use a site that already has all the infrastructure? But no, we're not going to build any of that because then it is going to have extreme oversight and then we can't steal. So Medupi and Kusile, coal-fired power stations, perfect opportunity to steal like you cannot believe. And that's exactly what happened. The stealing is still happening today. Except now, in Eskom, you have a CEO that's been appointed by the ANC government, approved of by the ANC government, speaking out against Eskom that we need for grid stability. He is actually speaking out against the company he is appointed to save and saying that Eskom is redundant. and that Eskom cannot save the country's electricity supply, that we should get renewable energy in, and who gets half a slice of that pie? Patrice Motsepe, Cyril Ramaphosa's brother-in-law, gets a half of those contracts. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Why renewable energy? Because firstly, it'll screw up the grid further, and secondly, because it costs an absolute fortune. It's perfect to destabilize the country. Perfect to destabilize the country, make our government look incompetent, and get the people to rise up against the government. Why? Because for us to have a one world government with a one world leader and a one world religion, we need all governments around the world to fail, just as the ANC government needs to fail. Eskom is a part of that plan. If you can bring a country's energy supply to its knees, if you can bring a country's energy supplies to its knees, you control the people of that country. You control them, and you will be at those worldwide puppet masters' mercy. So, how does electricity affect the 5 things you need for survival? Water. Water gets pumped with electrical pumps. Food. Food needs to be transported in trucks. The fuel needs to be manufactured and pumped with electricity. The shops, the freezers that keep them cold needs electricity. So, water is affected, food is affected. What about shelter? The things we use to shelter ourselves, you need electricity in many instances to manufacture it. Many of the shelters that we can get, natural shelters, you don't need electricity for unless you want to use tools that need electricity. If you are really skilled, you don't need any electricity to build a shelter. Energy, next. Energy, the 4th thing, energy. So energy can be your body heat. It can be anything to keep you alive. Electricity can be one of those things that can heat you without light so that you are not seen. Electricity is a form of energy. And the last thing, and probably the most important to most people, something to keep you sane. How are most people kept sane at the moment? Watching YouTube videos, listening to music, doing so many things online, on the internet, is what keeps most people sane. Can you imagine the internet ceases to work? You can't use your cell phone. You can't communicate with people online. Will you be able to remain sane? So just think to yourself, without electricity, where we will find ourselves. We need stable electricity on our electrical grid. This is vital for civility in South Africa and for stability in South Africa. So I want you to see past the fact that Patrice Motsepe is going to make lots of money. I don't care about him making money. I care about the fact that what he's going to come and put in here is not going to give us a stable grid. That it's going to absolutely put so much debt on us, skyrocket the electricity price so that most of us will not be able to afford it. At the moment, Koeberg is generating electricity at around 50 cents a kilowatt hour. The cheapest wind turbine, can get nowhere near that. They are multiples more expensive than Koeberg Nuclear Power Station. Can you afford to pay 5 or 6 or 10 times more for your electricity than you are currently? Can you afford to pay that much more for your fuel than you are currently? Can you? You need to ask yourself those questions. So why destabilize the country? Why is Eskom so important to maintain stability in South Africa? Because Eskom is the only company right now that can do it until we change the electoral system, change the governance system to something where we can directly elect our leaders so that we can change this global influence in our country. So Eskom is the only company that can do it. There is going to be no other company coming in, building 20, 30, 40,000 megawatts worth of electricity in the next 9 years. It's just not possible. It's not going to happen. So what do we need to do? We need to make sure that firstly, we get a CEO in charge of Eskom that actually wants to fix the problem and not say that Eskom is a piece of rubbish. Let's write it off and let's give the business to someone else. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is retain skills. We need to retain all the people with skills within Eskom and get back those that are willing to come back, even though if it's the greybeards, to come back and work at the power stations to make sure that those units operate optimally. Why are many of the coal-fired station units suffering from boiler tube leaks, etc.? Because they're receiving poor quality coal. Are the Guptas supplying this coal? No, they're not. They're not there. So you need to ask yourself, why do we still have problems if the Guptas were blamed for everything? In fact, the Guptas were supplying good, high-grade quality coal to the coal-fired power stations in record time. So what is going on right now? Why does Ted Blom say that there's rocks being sold to some of the power stations? Why does he say that? Because it's true. It's because it's true. And that is why many of the coal-fired power stations are running into trouble. All sorts of trouble. Many of those stations are at the end of their life cycle. We should have replaced most of the Eskom units with 30,000 more megawatts already. They relied on the fact that the grid is collapsing and we will use less electricity to sustain us up until now. When I was at Eskom, we used to have peak hours at night between 7 and 8 of 36,000 megawatts. That was a long time ago. We should have been close on 50,000 megawatts already. That is why our economy has contracted. We cannot supply the electricity to sustain the economy. This is why we are in the state that we are in. It's not just about complaining about Eskom. You cannot invest in a country, build factories, and do many other things if you don't have the electricity to do it. The entire Kuchak project was built based on the fact that Eskom would supply the electricity for it. If you go there, there's nothing going on because Eskom couldn't supply the electricity. So think about the huge role that Eskom and the destruction of Eskom has played in destroying the country, destroying us, and then trying to get us to destroy our government or what's left of it, to destabilize the country to a point where the United Nations can walk in here and save us, because this is what they want. What will they give us? They will give us a new world order system. They want us to be this new order. What does that order look like? That order does not give you freedom at all. Like Klaus Schwab said, you will have everything you want, be happy, and own nothing. Literally. So to get this fourth and fifth industrial revolution running, you need to break down the entire everything that Eskom represents needs to be broken down completely. And the world needs to start focusing on what they call microgrids. So what they're not telling you is that all big industry will cease to exist. And this is part of the plan. Smart cities are going to be built everywhere. And all you are going to do is be controlled with cameras watching you 24/7. You're going to live in a crime-free society because you won't be able to do anything wrong. You will have no freedom. And that this is the world that's planned for you. because that is the alternative to not having Eskom, which is an industrial, or used to be an industrial giant. So the alternative to not having Eskom and to breaking that down is to create the smart grid environment, a microgrid environment where there's zero large industry. You will not own a car in future. You will not own anything that uses high levels of electricity. You won't have an oven in your house. It won't exist anymore. This is already being planned behind the scenes. So just understand that the collapse of Eskom plays a much larger role in the big scheme of things. And you need to understand what that role is. Eskom stability is a threat to a new world order being implemented amongst us. And you will see in America this Green New Deal, and 5 of the mayors of metros in South Africa that have signed this agreement just now, saying that they will abide by what these world powers tell them to do, not by what you elected them to do. And I've been trying to warn people for a very long time that when you go to the ballot box, vote for freedom. Don't vote for someone that's going to fix your pothole, because very soon he's going to put a camera on every corner of your street and he's going to monitor your every move. And soon he's going to start building a smart city. And soon he's going to start building a smart airport. And very soon you're going to get, yes, you are going to get a pass that is digital. A digital passport that is going to be a vaccination status passport. It's going to be a health passport, and it's going to be personal identification. And when this happens around the world, this fourth industrial revolution will roll out faster than you can say knife. And before you know it, your children will shout and scream to be a part of it, because their teachers in school and everyone else in the tertiary institutions have been brainwashing your kids that that is the perfect society. Where does that perfect society plan come from? It comes from the 1780s. It comes from a man called Adam Weishaupt that founded the Bavarian Illuminati. Go and study that history and the plan that was derived back then to create a perfect world where you won't have power stations, where everyone will get everything they want. They won't have any rights. They won't own anything. You won't need to make any decisions because it will be made for you. And Eskom is a big part of that plan. As long as Eskom can power large industry, that plan of theirs cannot work. So they need it to collapse. They need Eskom to collapse. So I want you in future, when you look at News 24 or you look at Business Tech or any of those mainstream media outlets, look at what they are actually saying. Look at what they're actually saying. Try and understand why the Democratic Alliance wants the Western Cape to be separate from Eskom. Why they say this, but cannot do it. If they want to keep the factories. You see, they can turn the Western Cape into a small microgrid city. What they're not telling you is there will be no more large industry at all, because you cannot run it on wind turbines and solar panels. It's not possible. They know it. So understand what you are supporting. Understand what it means for your future, and understand what it means for your freedom, and why you need to decide in future what you want to do going forward. Do you want a company like Eskom to supply you with the cheapest form of electricity available on the market? Or do you want this new system where electricity will become so expensive that you will change your lifestyle to the point where you will hand over all your freedoms, all of them, because you won't have a choice, so you can have water, food, shelter, energy, and something to keep you sane? Think about what I've just said. If you have the funds to become energy independent, you absolutely should become energy independent. But like I said earlier, most people do not have those funds. And this is why a company such as Eskom existed, is to make it possible for cheap, good quality electricity to reach the end consumer. Now you have a CEO of a company that should be building up the company, building up the product, saying that the product that they produce is trash, that it's redundant, that Eskom isn't necessary anymore. Why is he saying these things? Why did he work with Tito Mboweni at Nampak? Why was Tito Mboweni, when the writer was a CEO, why was Tito Mboweni the chairman of the board at Nampak? And why did he bring the writer over to Eskom when he destroyed the Nampak shares? Why did the ANC applaud the appointment of the writer? Have you ever asked yourselves these questions? Have you ever asked yourself why the writer has never been lambasted for the situation Eskom is in? Because all he's doing is blaming Eskom for everything. He's blaming the company when he's the CEO, and it's allowed in the mainstream media. Have you ever heard of anything like that? If any of the past CEOs did what the writer is doing now, they would have been fired rapidly. The mainstream media would have been ripping them to shreds. So why is the mainstream media allowing the writer to say all these things and do all these things? You need to ask yourself that question. Why? It's because there is a set plan. Our big industry, big businesses, if you are working in a big business right now, you need to fear for your future. Forget about this. This should be the least of your problem. Die inspuiting should be the least of your problem. Your business, if it uses large amounts of electricity, is going down in future. And I can tell you by 2030, the damage will be done. That is the timeline. If you go and look at the United Nations Agenda 2030, and this is the organization used to implement all these new world order plans. And we are the new world order. It's us, the people. We are being ordered into this specific way of living. The United Nations is implementing this. It's Agenda 2030. And our country's sustainable development goals for 2030 that you see all over behind Cyril Ramaphosa and the ministers. NDP 2030, National Development Plan 2030, is fully aligned with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What does that include? The fourth industrial revolution. What does that include? It will make the Green New Deal look like a Sunday school picnic. It will bring climate lockdowns. If you think the lockdowns we've had now are bad, think again. You are going to see lockdowns happening because of climate, and coal is going to get the blame. And I'm not debating how good or bad coal is here. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Eskom is going to be attacked. They're going to build propeller after propeller after propeller. You're going to see propellers standing everywhere. You're going to see solar panels everywhere, and they will not be able to hold the grid stable. The electricity price is going to go through the roof. And what are you going to do about that? Did you know that 80% of the increase in Eskom's electricity price, that increase factor, comes from renewable sources because they are that expensive? Now, the next thing I need to highlight to you, and this is very important, is that in every tax rand, 58 cents goes towards salaries of government workers. 58 cents in every tax rand. 22 cents goes towards debt repayment. There's 20 cents in every tax rand left for service delivery. Half of that, if not more, gets stolen. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if we change the governance system, we have more than enough fiat currency or money to sustain this country and do what we want, build whatever we want, build nuclear power stations if we want, anything that can keep the grid stable. and something that is clean. We can do this. We can have stable baseload in the country to run industry, build that industry, build our own products, build our own cars, build our own cell phones. We can do all of this if we want to. We've done it before. So why do we have to be dependent on the United Nations now? Why has KwaZulu-Natal got the United Nations in there telling the Premier Zikilala what to do? Why is there a task force of the UN there telling them how to build KwaZulu-Natal around the district model? Why? Remember the districts in the Hunger Games. Remember them. Remember the districts in the Hunger Games. Don't forget them. That UN task team said they will work closely with Zikilala and rebuild KwaZulu-Natal on the district model. What does that mean? Do you understand what that means? Wow, we have over 1,000 viewers for the first time. I really want to thank you for coming onto this live stream and listening to this very important information. How do we, as citizens, make a difference to make sure that we can have electricity security? The first thing you need to do is to stop blaming Eskom and look at who is causing the problems. And as a citizen, if you behave like a citizen, speak to government, mail them, call them, and say, what are you doing? What are you doing to our grid? Why is the Eskom CEO allowed to say that Eskom is defunct? How long is it going to take for them to put up all these saving grace propellers and solar panels? How stable is that going to make the grid? Be a voice. And the other thing that we need to do is, just like we're doing on Saturday in KwaZulu-Natal, is gather together, meet with each other and discuss what we need to do. Make yourself as independent of government and corporate control as you can. So if you can, make sure that you have gas in gas cylinders. I've told people that a short while ago. Make sure that you have food and water stored for at least a minimum of 3 months. And make sure that you have that energy. So the 5 things you need for sanity: water, make sure you have water supply. Food, make sure you have food supply. 3, shelter, make sure that you can shelter yourself from the elements. 4, energy, you can store gas in gas bottles. That's one of the easiest ways to store energy, so you don't have to go chop wood. And 5, something to keep you sane, so you don't lose your mind. And I don't want this live stream to be doom and gloom, but we are at a tipping point right now in South African history, where if we don't organize as South African citizens and stop this madness, we will go beyond the point of no return and we will tip over. And once you've tipped, you cannot come back. You cannot come back. We can't allow that to happen. We have to stop that. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that all the units that I can help influence and all the other people within Eskom will work around the clock to make sure that we maintain the grid as stable as possible, and that we make sure that we leave no stone unturned in stabilizing the Eskom grid. What you can do is to make sure that if Eskom says that it's short on supply, that you actually listen and switch off unnecessary electricity in your house. It makes a huge difference. The problem, however, is that that is not enough right now, because at this stage, the units are so old that they are at breaking point, many of them. And a lot of them don't have parts that you can replace anymore. We've had many incidents at some units that have rendered them inoperable for a long period of time, like the hydrogen explosion. These are all huge setbacks. Now, next year, both Koeberg units are going down for long outages where they, and this was in the news, will be replacing the steam generators on those units. They will be down for 6 months each. So from the beginning of next year, Unit 2 will be down, and then late in that year, when that unit is done, the next unit is coming down. We are going to be short of almost 1,000 megawatts on the grid for the whole of 2022 from the onset. And you need to know what that means. It makes us extremely vulnerable. Extremely vulnerable. This is pre-planned maintenance. There's also many other power stations that will then have to run to destruction. In other words, run until they break because of this lack of load from Koeberg. And this is not Koeberg's fault. This is to get Koeberg to extend its life by 20 years, which will save us an immense amount of money because they are the cheapest units by far on the Eskom grid. Now, everyone will tell you nuclear is the most expensive. Absolute rubbish. After 20 years, Koeberg became the cheapest power station on the Eskom grid. Why? Because you pay for a Rolls Royce and it keeps on running. That's why. And often, it's best to buy something that is better, that'll last longer. But because of the consumerist world we live in today, that is not the focus. The main focus now is to consume, break and consume, break and consume. And why have we become so used to this? Why do you buy a charger? It breaks after the first decent sized phone you plug into it, so you just throw it away. You don't take it back to the shop and say, yeah, take this thing back. It's a piece of rubbish. Most of us don't do that. We've become so used to bad quality that we just accept it. We do nothing about it. Once again, what can you do? You can complain to the Minister of Energy. We can flood the inboxes. We can complain to the CEO of Eskom and ask him, why are you making these statements? Why do you not speak out for Eskom? Why do you speak out against Eskom? And why do you allow the mainstream media to break down the one thing we need for survival? Because if Eskom collapses, they will get what they want. But what happens to us? We will have a complete breakdown of civility within 2 days. The first looting and pillaging will start within 2 hours of the news going out that we've had a complete grid collapse. We cannot allow this, people. So, I really want to ask you, firstly, thank you for all of you that have come into this live stream. Please share this with your friends and family. Share this live stream. The first one malfunctioned, and I started this one from scratch. Please share this with your friends and family and make them understand the significance of the role that you can play in not only helping Eskom by reducing load when they ask, but asking by emailing, making phone calls, speaking to your local councillor, speaking to your local MP, and ask them, why is this not being done? Hold them accountable. Start behaving like a normal citizen and say, why do you want to scrap Eskom or remove the Western Cape out of Eskom? How are we going to supply ourselves? How are we going to do it? Ask these people. Ask Alan Windy. Hi, Rita. Ask Alan Windy. Ask Jordan Neil Lewis. How are you going to do it? Ask them if they know anything about electricity supply. And they will say, no. We have these advisors advising us. All of those advisors are people with shares in the renewable energy companies. All of them. And I'm not fighting against renewable energy. Not at all. Because you can use it at your home to supply yourself with energy. But on a large-scale grid, such as here in South Africa, it is a disaster. We cannot sustain ourselves if we don't have stable baseload power. If we want to put up the battery banks and the solar panels all over the country to keep this grid running at night with no coal, do you have deep pockets? Because it's going to cost you 10 to 20 times more than what you are paying now. Are you willing to do that? Yes, you can do it if you want to. Are you willing to do that? I really want to thank you for coming into this live stream. I'll take some questions from you now. Jay says KZN test run was chaos within hours. People forget too soon. Absolutely correct, Jay. If there's any questions from any of you, if you can just please ask me those questions. I will spend the next 15 minutes with you answering questions about Eskom and the electricity grid. If you have any specific questions, you can ask me. Okay, Kathleen, I am sure that you will be able to find those email addresses. Okay, the Minister of Energy, just go on the government website. You should be able to find the office of the Premier of the Western Cape. You should be able to find the office of the Mayor of Cape Town. You should be able to find the office of the CEO of Eskom. And he invites public opinion. So please contact them. Say how you feel. Say how you feel. Become active citizens. It's incredible what you can do as an individual. Please do that. We cannot have our grid destabilized. It's not an option. It's a point of no return. Okay. Tom, you only need 1 unit of Kuberg to restart the grid. So any 1 unit is sufficient. Okay. And then at the same at Drakensberg, you only need, no, I think you need at least 2 units. But I mean, there's 4 units available there. And if your dam levels are good, then you can black start the grid. The problem is when the grid is down, you have to rebuild it from scratch. Can you imagine 2 days with nothing? And then there's no guarantee that you can have anything soon. You're talking 2 weeks if there's a grid collapse before you start rebuilding the grid. Okay, Clinton Morris, start teaching your friends and family to become self-sufficient. Do it ASAP. The more that are, the better. Absolutely correct, Clinton. If you build a nuclear power station, you will make your money back in the next 5 years. No. Kuberg took 20 years to pay back, but once it was paid back, it was just a cash cow for Eskom, and it's still the cheapest power station in the Eskom fleet by a long shot. Okay, Lorraine. Yeah, it's very simple. Nuclear waste, you just put it in a lead canister and you leave it like that. So I ask people, what are you going to do with all the millions of solar panels? Like in Australia, they have entire warehouses and rugby fields filling up with solar panels. Okay. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with battery banks? And they will say, well, we just keep it in a warehouse. Well, the nuclear fuel, you just put it in a lead cask in a warehouse. That's what you do. No problem. That's what they've done at Kuberg. You don't need to shoot it into space, shoot it underground, or do any of those things. None of it. In fact, the storage space area is so small, you can fit it in the goal scoring area of a rugby field for the entire life of a power station. So there's your answer. That nuclear fuel can do nothing to you when it's in that cask. So I really don't know why people are discussing issues around nuclear fuel if you can literally run the nuclear power station safely. I'm not talking about the old designs like Fukushima and the old designs like Chernobyl. The modern designs have been running accident-free. We shouldn't have had any of those old designs running still. They should be shut down. Absolutely, we need stable power for industry, Beata, but the plan is to get rid of that industry. That is what the fourth industrial revolution is. And what did Cyril Ramaphosa say? And he's on the thumbnail for this video for a reason. He said, we will use the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and our National Development Plan to drive the fourth industrial revolution. He made a promise to the nation that that's what he will do. And what the people in the DA top structures are not telling you is that they're going to remove large industry out of this country. That's what they're not telling you. Because you cannot run the Western Cape without Eskom. What they're going to do is they're going to start with a secession problem. And to do that, they are going to build smart cities, smart airports, smart everything. And they're going to want to create smart microgrids everywhere. What is that going to do? It's going to power cameras that monitors you. It's going to power microphones. It's going to power smart devices. There's no more place for industry in that. Industry will move away completely. Steve, if you don't get load shedded, it could be because of where you are. If you're close to the Nile, that would be one reason why. People in Duinefontein, close to Koeberg, don't get load shed either. Edna says Elon is just another puppet. I don't know what you're saying that in reference to. Elon very much does his own thing. He's a puppet of nothing, that I can tell you. He doesn't care about money. Slow engineering the collapse of our country. Well, slow engineering. It's not slow engineering. With regards to Eskom, politicians decided not to do anything. So they decided not to build any power stations. Thabo Mbeki made that decision, not Jacob Zuma, not Nelson Mandela. It was Thabo Mbeki. He single-handedly destroyed the future of Eskom. Once you are behind, you're always behind. How do you catch up? You can't. Xavier is asking, can I run my house using energy from a car, alternator, and an electric motor with a gym weight as a flywheel? Not a chance, Xavier. Your car alternator produces very little electricity. There's so many gimmicks that you see on YouTube, on the internet, that's utter nonsense. There is no free energy within our realm of science. It doesn't exist. You have to destroy something to create energy, okay? Or you have to use momentum or gravity or something. So there is no such thing. Most of those devices, you have to put in more energy to get something out. Or you have to use more energy to produce the device than it will produce in its lifetime, like many of the propellers out there in society. Will it fly SA? Absolutely. Go to Google, Thales Digital ID Wallet. They have the apps ready to control us. Absolutely, people. Don't be fooled. Billy says solar and wind isn't efficient enough. There is another way, using concave mirrors and lenses to focus sun rays to heat water to drive a turbine. Absolutely, Billy, one can do that. There's and there is a system like that up in the Northern Cape. Not where you have the tower in the middle where you focus all the mirrors in, because if a bird flies into that, they turn into charcoal halfway through. I mean, it's a terrible way to die. Those concave mirrors you talk about that has a pipe running along the length, that is a way to do it, certainly. Very expensive, extremely expensive. Maybe if we build more of that, it'll become more efficient. There's nothing to beat nuclear for efficiency on the planet at the moment. Next to nuclear will be fusion. And you will see that ITER, ITER. Let me just put it here for you. ITER. Go and research the ITER project. Then you will see where we will have the first fusion energy 500 megawatt production plant in the world. And that will transform everything. So the world elites, they literally need to make as much money off of us now. And not just that, but put up solar and wind to collapse grids worldwide so that they can then usher in this fusion energy era. And once they do that, this new world order leader will come with this wonderful solution to the world's problems. And people will beg and plead to be a part of that order. And they will literally hand over all their freedoms to get what they need to just stay alive. And this is why I've told people, become self-reliant with the 5 things you need for survival: water, food, shelter, energy, and something to keep you sane. That's important. People, please go and subscribe to Will It Fly SA. That's definitely a channel that you need to go and support. Will It Fly SA, I believe, has grown substantially. I really want to thank the creator for those videos to create awareness for what is happening in the country. So Will It Fly SA is certainly a channel that you need to go and support. And I will give you a link to that channel just now. so that you can go and support, subscribe, watch those videos. There's many more coming. And I will support any person that tries to expose what is happening out there in the world. And it's very important that we expose these people that are literally trying to take our freedom away, because that's what it's about in the end. And taking control of electricity and energy supply is a beautiful way for them to start controlling our freedom. And this is the problem that we are stuck with, is exactly that, is the fact that they can control your freedom if they give you your energy. And that is a huge problem right now. So let me just find Let It Fly SA, Will It Fly SA, sorry. I'll give you the link to the channel now. There's 328 subscribers, and I please want you to go and subscribe to this channel and go and watch those videos where awareness is created. There it is. So yes, T-Man, thanks. The 5 things you need for survival. Those are important things. You should have that at the top of your mind. Water, food, shelter, energy, and something to keep you sane. And shelter is not your house. It's anything that protects you from the environment. And invest in that order. If you want to invest in anything, invest in that order, in water, food, shelter, energy, and something to keep you sane. And electricity plays a role in all of those. And this is why, for a country's stability, you need a stable power source. It maintains civility in a society such as ours, where people are electricity dependent for their sanity in most cases. Yeah, you sell your freedom if you're not self-reliant. Absolutely. Very well said. There's a link to Will It Fly SA. Please go and support that channel and watch those videos. If you want to join as a member to this channel, click the join button underneath this video, become a member. And Thursday night, you can join me where I give intricate details into what is happening in the world. And also go and subscribe. We have passed over 1,000 subscribers, over 1,100 subscribers now on ground zero. And I really want to thank you. So we have literally monetized that channel within a week with one video. That's incredible. You know, that doesn't happen often. And that is the power of people working together. And that is why I want you to go literally and write emails, phone people that are influencing your electricity supply, and say how you feel. This is important. And the next thing you need to do is become as independent of government and corporate control as you can from an energy perspective, especially electricity. Do it as much as you can. For those of you that cannot, Eskom will always supply you with the cheapest electricity. And all of these independent power producers are coming in on a subsidized level. I can tell you that some of the wind turbines came in at over 6 Rand a kilowatt hour. So Kubik is 12 times cheaper. 12 times. I mean, are you willing to pay that kind of money for electricity, especially when it's not stable? It's not okay. I really want to thank all of you for coming into this live stream. It's we're going to be finishing up soon. Please share this with your friends and family. In the description below this video, you will find links to the Telegram channel. Please go and join both Telegram channels. There's a whole wealth of people there that have received a lot of information, that have a lot of information, that studied many things, that will be able to give you advice in how to become self-reliant. Please press on their buttons, ask questions in that group, and you will be helped. That's why I established that group, went over 1,000 people today. I really want to thank everyone that's joined. It's not a discussion group. It is an action group where you can take action in your own life. And that is important. So it's not for chit chat. There's 12 admins in that group that's doing a sterling job of making sure that it's not a conspiracy theory haven. We need to work with real practical solutions for problems that we face. And for those of you that haven't watched my past video on Bill Gates, go and watch it and share it with your friends and family. Yes, Maggie, that's the spirit. So happy we still have electricity. Thanks, Eskom. use stuff from fridge now. There are really well-skilled workers working within Eskom around the clock. I mean, running a power station is not a simple thing. I've been there in the control room, in the heart of the plant, and seeing all the maintenance staff doing the work, all the project managers, all the engineers, all the support staff. It's just incredible. And in the nuclear industry, those skills that you develop, I mean, you cannot replace it. The country needs skills like that, especially in government. So, if you can take a lot of the people from the nuclear industry, put them in government, you will certainly have a much better government than what you have now. But in future, we shouldn't have a government. We should be the government, and we should elect representatives in a direct election system where you directly elect your leaders. And then we can start influencing what is happening now. Because our current president is selling us out to the highest bidder, to his brother-in-law, in fact. I mean, no one is shouting and screaming about this. Everyone was shouting and screaming about Jacob Zuma and the Guptas. Why is no one shouting and screaming about the Eskom CEO, about the situation in Eskom, about the situation with Cyril Ramaphosa, and with the situation with Patrice Motsepe that's getting all these renewable contracts? No one is saying anything. Nothing. There's no outcry. There's no marches in the street. Why is that different? Because the mainstream media is playing out a narrative that is planned by the four people that run this country: Rupert, Oppenheimer, Becker, and Wieser. Those people run the media in the country, they run the mineral wealth of the country, they run the clothing and food supply of the country, and they run the addictions, the cigarettes and alcohol. If you go and look at everything they control, you will understand how easy it is to just get control of those four people, and you can control a country very easily. You can control what happens to Eskom. You can supply Eskom with bricks and rocks and rubbish and try and burn it in a boiler and get away with it, and no one will ask questions. Why is this happening? You need to ask those questions. And I really want to thank everyone for coming on here. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, click the bell icon and for notifications, and go and watch the Moments in Time and Question Everything series. The Moments in Time and Question Everything series is very important for you to go and watch so that you understand what this channel is about. And another thing that I want to ask all of you, I see Ground Zero now has 1,220 subscribers already. I really want to thank everyone that has gone and subscribed to Ground Zero and grown the channel as big as it is at the moment. But there's a link to Ground Zero. And the other thing I want you to do, and in the description below this video, in the first comment, I'm going to put the banking details for Debbie Els. She needs your support at this stage. She needs an MRI scan. I will find out very soon how much that costs. But the first thing I want to tell you is that Debbie needs our support now. I see her bank statement. She's got nothing. Very little funds in a bank. Okay. She needs help with medication and many other things. So I please want to appeal to those of you that can to help Debbie. I'll put her banking details in the description below this video, as well as in the first comment underneath this video, for those of you that can help Debbie, who is fighting there for us in the trenches, and she's not going to stop. I speak to Debbie almost on a daily basis, and she is in pain at the moment. She's been contacted by IPID and will be laying official charges with IPID, explain the situation. I will hopefully join her in that before I go to KwaZulu-Natal, where I'll be seeing you on the 13th in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, near Howick, and we will put out the link to that in my Telegram channel. So both Telegram channels, I will place the pin drop for the venue so that you can find it. Those of you that have been there at my first Double O Days meeting, you will know where it is. 40 people attended that meeting. But this weekend, we're going to have hundreds of people descend on this farm in Howick. And there's an upper campsite and there's a lower area where an overflow of people can camp as well. It can accommodate a large group of people. So please bring your tents, camping chairs, and come to this Freedom SA event where we can just enjoy each other's company together. And thank you so much for being who you are. We need people to fight in the trenches now, like Debbie Els and Reino de Beer and the many other people out there fighting. I had a discussion with Jared Petzer today that wants to launch a site, viral media for South Africa, where we can take news and spread it fast. And I hope that this can come off the ground. It's a very good concept and that it can be used for good. And if it is, I will certainly support it and I will let you know. And then we can make sure that our information spreads throughout South Africa faster. Because at the moment, the mainstream media controls the narrative. And I really want to thank all of you that have come onto this channel and ask you one last thing. Please become self-reliant. This is the only thing that's going to give you options in future. Make sure you have at least 3 months water and food supply at home. Then make sure that you have energy. Store gas if you can, that can keep you going for at least 3 months minimum. And then you will have options in future. Please do this for yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video. And what is all these numbers coming up? Did someone ask a question somewhere? Oh, I'll post the link. Yes, I'll post the link right now. Let me just go over and thanks once again for we've gone past 35,500 subscribers now in the short while. It's really incredible. I really want to thank you for that. Here you have the link as you've asked. So please go and watch those videos there. That describes what we can do. You've all got your ages. Here's mine. Who asked for everyone to put their age there? Okay, I'm 50. I turned 50 this year. This is an awesome community. It's the first thing I want to thank all of you for being part of this community that's been on this journey with me, 00 days. My name is Desmond Bernardo, for those of you that don't know. I toured the country. I had over 300 meetings countrywide and we met with over 8,000 people. Now with the Freedom SA events that's taking place on the Garden Route and in Cape Town, we had 300 people at the first event. In the Cape Town Metro, we had 150 people. In Wilderness, I don't know how many people we can have in KZN. Whatever happens, happens. It's going to be a large group of people. And then on the 20th, we will gather in Muldersdrift in Gauteng for the Gauteng Freedom SA event. It's going to be a massive group of people assembled there. You can come and camp. So this weekend, you can camp the Friday, stay there the Saturday, camp over till the Sunday also. You're going to rough it out. There's 2 toilets at the top and there's a toilet at the bottom as well in the overflow. There's a dam you can swim in. But please, rough it out. Go and test your self-reliance in staying away from home for a weekend. Bring your porta potty with if you have to. And bring camping chairs, umbrellas, tents, whatever else it is that you want to. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be seeing you on the Saturday and then I'll be leaving the Sunday again. So I really look forward to seeing the people in KZN. Then the following weekend, I will be in Gauteng for that event, for that gathering at Muldersdrift. And like I said, all the link or the pin drop to the venue or the details for the venue will only be given in the Telegram group. Okay, so please, in the description below this video, you will find the link to the Telegram group, the 00 Days official group, as well as the one where we have our discussions, the discussion group, and you will find the links there. So go and join the people there. They are very active in discussing what is relevant. There is no nonsense that goes there. If people post nonsense, it gets removed immediately. People are actually talking to each other. That's really awesome. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much for all joining in. This has been a new record. It's the first time 00 Days has gone over 1,000 viewers during a live stream. And I really want to thank you for making that possible. Yes, yes, Tom Leroux. Beate, we can talk about that on Ground Zero. I will be doing an interview with the Promethean on Ground Zero. I'll be making many videos. There's many international people I'll be talking to on Ground Zero as well. We are creating a critical mass of critical thinkers. So I'll give you another link here. Good night to everyone. Thanks so much for coming into the stream. I hope you learned a lot. Please share this with your friends and family. The last live stream really went viral. It's got around 18,000 views. That's never happened before. And we had about 800 people viewing in that one. This is a new record, over 1,000 people. So we're doing something right with the live streams. And maybe we should stick to this format and discuss various things. So just remember, Eskom goes down, we have a problem. Please, people, you need to support Eskom as much as you can. Okay. Good vibes, please. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. And remember, those of you that can help Debbie, give her donations to help her to go for that MRI scan, please do so. I'll put her account details in the description below this video, as well as in the first comment. Those of you that can help Debbie, please do. She really needs your help. And I really want to thank Debbie for everything she's doing. She's still fighting, even when she has a broken back. And they will check now the situation with what looks like cancer. And yeah, she's still fighting. Debbie's not stopping. She's been reflective this week. And, something like this is a shock, I think, to anyone. It's not something that is easy to handle. But Debbie is a fighter. That is how I know her. And she'll keep on fighting to the end. And she supports 100% what we are doing on the ground. And I just want to put her details. Oh, goodness. Debbie had to get a recliner to actually sit in because she can't just sit normally. And yeah, so I'm trying to get her details quickly for you, but I will put it in the description below the video, like I said before. And then you can go and you can support her. And even if you just make a small contribution, it will make a huge difference to Debbie if you can do that. Okay. So just to sum up, Eskom is in a dire situation. We are sitting at a tipping point in the history of South Africa. If we cannot ensure stability within Eskom, the entire country is going to suffer. We cannot allow that. We have to make sure that South Africa remains stable. This is vital. So please, if you can write to your local councillor, to anyone, in fact, make sure that you can influence what is happening in your local council with your MP, with your MPL. Just do it. Make sure that you can influence them. You have a right to do that. Don't stand back. Become an active citizen. And make sure that you can influence these people. Okay, there you go. That's Debbie Els Medical Support Fund. There's the details. Please help her. And shop local people. Please support local people. I mean, I will do videos just on that, on how you can do that yourself. I will do videos on food storage, water storage, how you can store your food and water, and many other things, especially if you look at the 5 things you need for survival. But please make sure that you influence these people that have been elected in this fraudulent electoral system. That's not a democracy, that you hold them accountable. Don't let them rest for 1 minute. They think they're sitting now in their seat. Put the heat on. Go and find them at their house. Stand in front of their house and tell them, I want you to do X, Y, Z. You've been elected now. I want you to represent me like this. Expose them for who and what they are. Make it happen. And expose them all over social media, please. Yes, you do need to help Rhino, please, people. Help Rhino. I will give you the details I will do a live stream with Rhino soon. and then I'll give you the details for the vehicle account. He's actually been able to make a payment on the vehicle. So I'll give you an update, not a full payment, but so that he can continue using the vehicle. I will tell you exactly how much is still outstanding, and then get him to the point where he can start touring the country. That is very important. Yes, please, people, let's help Debbie. There's details again. Like I said, I'll put it in the description below the video as well as in the first comment. So we really need to help Debbie, else she's going to need your help. And medication is like over $2,000. You know, the last time I looked, Debbie only had 3,000 Rand in her account. She doesn't have a lot of money. She shows me her account details. She doesn't hide anything from me. You know, I helped Debbie move to where she's living now, and she's not making that public. Debbie has nothing. She has a room to stay in, and she will fight for the people. She doesn't care about earthly possessions as long as she can fight. That is who and what Debbie is. So please. And then you, hi Ansia. Wow, Ansia, that is awesome. Ansia says, I am Checkers, Pick and Pray, and Woolies free for 5 months. Wow, that is a super citizen, Ansia. That is incredible. That is really stunning. Joe Vanika says, crisis challenges, levels the playing field, unites people, a good place to be. Absolutely, Joe. And this is why we have to create awareness. Please, you need to go and support Joe's channel as well. There's so many awesome channels out there. Joe's Camera. I'm going to go and find it right now. I'm subscribed. I'm a member of Joe's Camera. And please go and support. If you want to see our beautiful country and what we are fighting for, okay, go and support Joe's Camera. He's a brilliant photographer and cinematographer, and he has stunning, stunning videos that he has put out there that all of you can go and watch. And I'm a member on his channel. And yes, there's the link for those of you that can go and join Joe's Camera. There's a link for Joe's Camera. Become a member there and go and watch these incredible videos that Joe has put out there. He's a very special person. And the things that he's filmed is just incredible. This country is worth fighting for, people. It really is worth fighting for. And we should fight to the last bit for us to remain free. Firstly, if we don't remain free, and Eskom and electricity is a part of that fight, okay? If we don't remain free, we lose everything that makes us human. Humans should be free to make choices and even make mistakes and then face the consequences of those choices. Imagine you live in a society where you are not allowed to make those choices anymore. The society that Klaus Schwab described, where you will own nothing and he's telling you that you will be happy. He's not speaking to you, he's speaking to your children. He's telling you how your children are going to feel because they are focusing on your children. So don't think that there's just these people in black suits sitting in some random hotel somewhere concocting plans to take over the world. No, your child's school teacher, varsity professor, many people may be these illuminates that believe in the Bavarian Illuminati doctrine of greater good ideology. And that is literally the divide. The divide between people that believe that you have the freedom to make choices and the people that believe that you should relinquish your freedom to make choices for the greater good of society. And you will hear Cyril Ramaphosa speaking of greater good all the time. His minister speaking of greater good all the time. You will hear the DA and the EFF speaking of greater good all the time. These people are sellouts to freedom. And that is why I'm asking people to fight for freedom with me. I really want to thank you for coming into this live stream. Please support Debbie. I will put those links in the description below this video as well as in the first comment. Have a good night. I'll see all the channel members on Thursday at 8 o'clock as usual. If you become a channel member, please click join. Ring the bell icon if you want notifications for videos. But the channel members, you will join the live chat every Thursday at 8 o'clock. You can also watch all the past content as well as presentations that I've done. For those of you that are new to the channel, please go and watch the Moments in Time and Question Everything series of videos. They are in playlists in order. Watch them. It doesn't cost anything but your time. Go through that so you understand why this channel, Double O Days, has become the success that it is. And we've now gone past, we're on our way to 5.2 million views, which is incredible for a channel of this size. Thank you for sharing the videos thousands of times each time and getting the information to more and more people. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you for all the likes. Good night. Yeah, Thursdays, bombshells. There's always a bombshell every Thursday. Yeah, people, please hit the like button. Remember, this is a video for all people. So if you hit the like button, then we've gone past 700. Then we drive the algorithm so more people see this video so we can make it viral. Please hit the like on your way out. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Yes, 700 likes and growing. Bye, everyone. Thursday night, more bombshells as usual. And like I said, all the members, you can go and watch the past videos. They're all there for you to watch. You don't start from scratch. You can catch up on everything. Bye, Felix. See you on the 20th. I'm sure you're going to be there. Good night, Edrich. Night, Marina. T-Man. Cheers, man. I saw T-Man just the other day. Awesome man with lots of very good ideas on the ground to spread information. Bye, Marlene, Darwin, Sharon. All the people with the little Double O Days logo next to them, they are all channel members. Thank you all for coming on. Yeah, this was really incredible. We made history with this live stream. Bye, Samkele, Desi, Dave. Hope you're all well there in Holland. Ilka. Yeah, we did get bombed out at the beginning of the live stream. We are back, absolutely. Bye, Derek. Thanks for keeping the fort on the Telegram channel. People, please, in the description below this video, go and join the Telegram channel. It's gone over 1,000 people today. I started it almost a week ago, and it's been one of the best things I've done. I do all my communication there and on YouTube. It just makes life so much easier. Good night. Lekker slaap.